in the press afterwards. But obviously that didn't affect how the players performed, and it was just unfortunate that the ball looped over Clements' head off Mabbutt's knee. But I was gutted for like 3 days. That season I was at the Lane when Arsenal knocked us out of the League Cup semi-final in the replay. We were leading in that game 1-0 and let in 2 late goals. Clements had a bit of a gaff on one of those. The Arsenal team had been pumped up because I guess the announcer had made a comment at halftime about getting your tickets for the final, which very Spursy to announce that when you're winning at halftime. Very Spursy to lose by 2 goals to the old enemy late on in the game. That I was pissed off for a week on that one. So that's my worst FA Cup memory. I do remember the 81 Cup final with Ricky Villa winning, and my girlfriend at the time was a Spurs fan, and that was a kind of special time. Young
and
love,
still
I guess.
Ricky Villa.
Yeah.
Still Ricky Villa.
And then, and it's funnily enough, 91. And to your point, Ken, we really have not had much of a good run other than getting to the semis fairly often in the last 20 odd years. But we haven't been back to Wembley for the final since 91. And I remember that day. Different girlfriend, sound like a gigolo. I was over I was living in Australia, but I was over in the UK at the time, and I was coming back from seeing some friends on the south coast. Just got home in time for the kickoff, and my mum told me that this girl had been constantly calling, again, in the days before we had mobiles. She'd been constantly calling me all morning because apparently I had a ticket for a box at Wembley.
Oh.
So kind of disappointed about that one, but that was a cracking game. I mean, we all remember Gazza and he was so wound up when he just went full on into Gary Charles, and if that happened today, it'd have been sent off, no doubt about it. I think everyone was surprised he didn't in that game, but from the free kick on his last bad tackle that saw him do his knee and got stretchered off, Stuart Pearce scored the goal, and it looked like it was not going to be our day again. And I think Lineker had a goal ruled off for offside, which I think he was on. And then he had a penalty save, which is very unlike Lineker. So he wasn't having his best day, and we relied on Paul Stewart to equalise. And then, as kind of karma for 87, Des Walker in extra time, headed in to his own net. Mabs, ironically, was right behind him and probably would have got to the ball. So I guess for Mabbutt, because he lifted that cup that day, took away the pain of 87 somewhat.
Right.
In fact, I'm looking at a framed photo of Mabsy holding the cup signed by him. Always a Spur, I think it says on there. So that was a good cup final memory. So those are mine. I mean, plenty of heartaches losing in semis. 91 semi-final against the Woolwich was clearly our best semi-final performance. It couldn't have happened first time for a Wembley semi-final as well.
What a goal. What a goal. Schoolboy zone stuff.
Was that the game where Gaza was doing the interview with I'm going to get my suit pressed? I think, or whatever it was.
Well, that tournament, that season's tournament, he single-handedly got us to the finals. His goals in some of the ties leading up to Wembley. In fact, that he had just come back from a hernia operation and was really not 100% fit. But what a goal! Yeah.
And what a legendary piece of football commentary, right? It was Barry Davis, right?
I think it was Barry Davis, yeah.
Yeah, unbelievable.
But anyway, so bang up to date. Our record in the Cup has not been great since 91. We've had several semi-final appearances, 93, 95, 2001.
Had more success in the
league. We should have gone a couple of years ago. We were playing, Portsmouth in the semi-finals?
Yeah.
Dawson slips on the pretty crappy Wembley turf that day, and it was all over at that point. And then there was the Chelsea game with the ball that didn't go over the line that they got the goal on a couple of years ago.
Yep.
So we've made a lot of semis in the last 20 odd years, but fallen at that last hurdle, which has never really happened that much for us in the history of the Cup. We've normally prevailed in a lot of semi-finals.
What about you,
Sam?
Yeah.
Well, look, I'll be quick. For me, I mean, it's cemented. Me. It was a period of time that got cemented as me being a Spurs fan. So I mean, my distinct memory was sort of Ricky Villa in the semifinals in '81. What an unbelievable goal he scored against Wolves. And I've been
Where was that replay, by the way?
It was at Molyneux, wasn't it?
No, it was
you know what it was?
Highbury.
Oh, was it really? It was a dreadful day, dreadful pitch.
Spurs fans just
terrible.
That place.
It was a terrible, terrible pitch, an unbelievable goal. And then
was that the match where they were saying that it was just a month or a couple of months before the Liverpool disaster that it could have been Spurs fans that actually
the first match was at Hillsborough. Yeah,
that's right.
It was 81, so that was 8 years before the actual disaster.
Okay.
Yeah, we were in the Lemmings End and.
Yes. And there were people that were struggling in that fixture as well. So for me it was 81, and the first FA Cup, actually they took Villa off, and so I think Villa was used as a substitute in the second replay when he had his goal, right?
No, he started. I remember Steve Perryman had said to Berkey, he shouldn't start. He shouldn't start, which, you normally kind of listen to your captain. I either read it in somebody's autobiography, but Berkey prevailed and he did start him, and the rest is history.
That's right. He was livid when he came off in the first.
Yeah, he was sulking.
Yeah, he went straight to the tunnel and left, and so that was it for me. And I just we were always. We had a pretty good we had a pretty good league run, I think, that year as well. But we were a cup team. I mean, we were. That's where our successes were. Rich history. I mean, it's a great tournament, and I'm glad we're still in it. And hopefully tomorrow will go well. But it won't be easy. That's a tough fixture.
No, it won't be easy. I mean, they're all tricky. I mean, look at those games today. I mean, City went right down to the wire and finally pulled one out in the 91st minute.
Yeah. Simon pointed out, United was 0-0 at Yeovil. Unbelievable.
And they weren't playing very well either.
That game was dreadful.
Look, I'll be happy to have a replay back at White Hart Lane. If you give me that option right now, I'll take it.
I don't want that, though. We got so many fixtures piled up right now. We could cram another Tuesday match in there.
It's a tough
one.
We're
playing 3 games a week, man. I mean, that's...
Well, and it goes back to what I said earlier, whether Burnley will treat this as a distraction to their Premier League survival. So if you're going to play a Premier League team in the FA Cup, it might as well be someone who, on the day, might be thinking about the next Premier League match.
Yeah.
Yep. Well...
Yeah.
And we should, but I think we've got to say, hey, on our day we should beat Burnley, and on paper, that's what should happen. I think Lawrence has picked us to lose. I'm sure Merson's probably picked us to lose.
3-0. Yeah, I'm sure it's 3-0.
3-0. Yeah, we'll get battered. Tottenham are ready for the taking. This is probably going to be it.
And if the system is really working the way it should be working, even if we only put out half starters, we should still end up with a very strong squad. I mean, if you're talking about Soldado and Lennon, Stambouli and Dembele, or maybe Stambouli and Paulinho in the midfield, maybe you go ahead and play Chadley, maybe you don't. I don't know. Maybe Ceballos comes up and gets a run out on the left wing.
There's one of the young players is in the squad. Yeah,
he's not going to the ACON, so. At least not yet, because he got called up and he said, no, I want the first team opportunity. So he told his country I'm coming, but put me on hold for a minute.
A lot of folks excited about him.
Yeah. Yep. It should be interesting to see what happens for sure. And hopefully we get to talk about the FA Cup run for a nice long time. I mean, we got that. We've got the semifinal with Sheffield coming up, and then we get to play, who knows, maybe Chelsea, right, back again at Wembley.
Yep.
Before we leave that, guys, I did see the Fighting Cock had retweeted one of someone who follows them or was part of those guys. They're staying in the same hotel with Spurs up in the northwest, and I see Eriksson, Dyer, Kirikesh, Norton, Vertonghen, Soldado in one of the photos. So,
okay.
Cool.
I mean, not really any surprises there. Harry Kane's there too, so I'm sure we've taken a pretty deep squad.
Yeah. I wouldn't even be surprised if we go out and just run 4-4-2 against it and play very basic football. You never know.
Yeah.
Let's see, what else? Sam, I know
Hello.
you have a wonderful article that you want to talk about that you read and was very apropos and eye-opening.
Yeah.
When I was doing some writing for the Fighting Cock podcast, this was one of the guys who was also writing, and he wrote a very good article.
He
and
did.
I know you've kind of delved into it a lot more than either Simon or me, so I'd like for you to talk about that, man.
He did, and of the many podcasts that are out there, I'd like to think that we're a patient crew here in Dallas, Texas, right? I mean, we've all sort of agreed to sort of stay the course, and let's not get too out of sorts, and let's let a good manager. We hired him as a good manager, let him do his thing, and so anyway, Vascon, and he on Twitter. I want to get his handle right, but the guys at the Fighting Cock are, I mean, the quality. These are very, very knowledgeable group of supporters. Run a great podcast, and Vass is a contributing writer. He is VCon at VCon1. On Twitter. He's an exiled Londoner in the Midlands, and his piece is entitled "Blame Game: Is There a Point?" And I encourage all of our listeners to go to thefightingcock.co.uk and read this article. And I won't spend a whole lot of time on it, but basically he took the approach, and he's not an Enoch in or Enoch out guy. He's just a very rational, or takes the approach to Tottenham from a very rational-minded, almost business owner-like perspective. And the article starts with a Twitter conversation with a guy that's very Enoch out, and the conversation, the argument keeps on moving as Vass sort of deconstructs all of this guy's assertions that we're not a big spending club, don't act like a big club, Enoch this, Enoch that. So I would encourage everybody who supports the club to go read it, because it does support the notion of just letting things unfold. And I thought it was just a very, very good article.
I love that. I love that.
I know, and I completely agree with you. So I want to mention that. I wanted to mention my amazing wife, who taught me about the Brazilian tradition that you eat lentils for New Year's for good luck, which I hate. And we went 1-0 down, and I took a spoonful, and then 1-1, took another spoonful, 2-1. I ate 5 spoonfuls of lentil at the pub that day. And then
and we scored 5 goals.
And we did indeed. And
but
then
the old lentil love was not one of them.
Yes, indeed. And the funniest tweet I saw this week was from a guy named @JackMOUU, and he says, "Hugo Lloris could have saved my parents' marriage."
Yeah, I saw that. He got retweeted by a lot of people,
I
too.
thought that was hilarious. And then, then one last thing is I had a really nice chat with Gab Marcotti, because he made some comments that we weren't going to be active or that we weren't ambitious, and I kind of felt like that his comments were a little bit out of context, and he was very, very gracious in having a really nice two-way conversation, and he sort of clarified his comments to say, no, I think that you guys will be active. He was really more so on the lines of net spending, which I think is a useless argument anyway.
I don't know. I've kind of seen some stuff out there that we have like $35 million in the coffers to spend. I just don't see it. I mean, if we're going to go out and buy one big, gigantic player, I don't know. I'd just be shocked. I'm too worried about disrupting the chemistry right now. Everybody would want a Boney or want a Schneiderlin or want somebody of that magnitude to come into the club and give us a boost. But it has to be something that's nominally better than what we already have. We can't bring in an average player and expect greater results.
Agree. We have players to sell, and to Vass's point in his article is that, look, we've got a very big lineup. We have players to sell, and just because we buy players as a function of who we sell doesn't mean that we're not being ambitious. That's just good business. Yeah. And so I think that there's money to spend, but it is a function of offloading players, which is an ambitious task given the short window that this winter window has. But one other thing I did want to mention was that one website that's just fantastic for to really get the facts on what our transfer business has been historically, and any club for that matter, is www.transferleague.co.uk. And go look. I mean, last year, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. We saw like 15, 16 players last year. So we have the ability to be, it's Levy time, right? So
they made big profit on some guys. I mean, $5 million for Iago Falque. Yep. And we ended up buying the Vorms and Dyers and Oh gosh,
Yeah,
a few others that are contributors now for less than that 5.
Yep, 32 billion players purchased, 24.2 came in, and we signed Davies, Vorm, Dyer, Yedlin, Fazio, and Stambouli.
Yep, and I think Fazio